Welcome to our June solstice gathering. I'm starting with a song for Mother Earth, as the solstice is about us celebrating the cycles on Earth. Today, for us in the Northern Hemisphere, it is the summer solstice, the time when we have the most daylight hours. And for those in the Southern Hemisphere, you are going into your cycle of winter, today being the shortest day. We celebrate our time on this planet. We celebrate all that Mother Earth provides for us all the time. Thank you, Mother Earth. Kishi kohua ahei kishi keho ahi ku. Dear souls, souls having a human experience, that is what you are. Are you enjoying this experience? Or is it a daily chore? Do you wish for times where you were free from this realm? Or are you savoring it? Are you spending your time focused on what you don't like? On what is distasteful? Or are you spending your time savoring the good moments and co-creating to make more delicious ones? The choice is yours. We have no desire to influence you one way or the other. The choice is yours. Understand, though, that when you find your mind focusing on all that is the unwanted, that is where you send your energy. So yes, be aware of all of that and deal with it as it comes up. Pretending it is not there only pushes it into the subconscious and creates disharmony at another level. As you spend your time reframing, looking for the good, looking for the enjoyable that is available. We emphasize what is available. Dream big, dream of the future. And at the same time, notice now. Notice what is here. Notice what you already have. For as you do that, you raise your frequency, and that is what brings you more of the same. Staying angry, bitter, resentful, fearful, that lowers your frequency. And at the same time, brings you more of the same. Such is the law of attraction. Well, that was an interesting start. When I decided to do this presentation for the solstice, it didn't occur to me that we'd be talking about the law of attraction at all. I thought we'd be talking much more, starting off by talking about how we celebrate the Earth's cycles. And now that I've started, it actually makes sense that we started with the law of attraction, because that's what our frequency is about, right? It's like what we attract, what we see in our outer life depends on what's going on in our inside. So as we refocus and as we reframe, of course, we have our ups and downs, we have our ebbs and flows, we have our times where we feel good, we have other times where, things irritate us or frustrate us, that we have the whole gamut of our emotions. Part of that, what really helps us is to be able to reframe when we notice what I call, where we get sucked into like the energy minus channel. So if we're having a day where all we're seeing are all the things that aren't working, it's like, hey, note to self. Okay, all those things are going on. We're not pretending that they're not happening, because actually ignoring them is worse. When we ignore how we really feel, then all those things get pushed inside our bodies and they can end up as a headache, as fatigue, and, goodness knows what else. So it's like, what do we do in those times? It's like, okay, right now I'm experiencing all this. What energy is required to support change? What can I do in this moment to bring me back to a better place, to a better frame of mind? And as we do that, we shift our frequency, we shift it into the energy plus channel. And that's when, the more we do that, the better we are able to hold that higher frequency, the more we see the shifts in our outer lives. And I could spend hours talking to you about how I've seen that with so many people, how when they shifted the way they were feeling, the way they were thinking, their outer lives reflected it. Actually, sometimes overnight, it can be that quick. So, where are you in this moment? If you're somewhere other than you'd like to be, here's a song to help bring you back to remembering your inner knowing, bringing you back to a place that is more enjoyable, even if your outside world has a lot of problems right now, even if there are things that have yet to be sorted out. Inside you, there is this inner core that you can tap into. The well of contentment is actually already there. It's just been covered up by other stuff. So here's some sound to assist you to, it's like an archaeological dig. Brush away all the dust and find that treasure. Here's the song for it. Koi hoi shi ho, ku shi ho, kui hai shi ho, ku shi ho, kui o shu, kui shi. Sho ku ishu, and take a nice easy breath. Good. I'm going to go into the questions and mix the questions up as we go along here, as they come to me, rather than doing one part talk and one part answering your questions. So I'm looking at my list here, and the first question I see is, how is solstice different from the new moon, and how can we benefit from it? The solstices are the times where, there is that time of the longest day and the longest night. The longest day and the longest night, depending, of course, where you are as to whether it's winter or summer for you. Summer solstice being the longest day, winter solstice being the longest night. These are heralding in, they're calling in a time for us. And although one is about summer and being outdoors and enjoying all that has to offer, And of course, we can still do that in winter if you like winter sports. But winter, one tends to think of a time of cocooning, a time of an inward journey. They both are about celebration. Now, new moons happen every 28 days. This is a cycle that is in, a 28-day cycle. And new moons are about new beginnings. New moons are the time where the energy is at its greatest to assist us to get clarity and to set intentions for what you want in your life. I see solstices as celebrating those things. I see the solstices as celebrating being human, having this time on earth. When I was younger, I found, I was what I would call a reluctant incarnator. It's like, gee, they sent me to this boarding school called Earth, and when do I get to go home? Because it's kind of being a drag being here. Because so many things I saw, were heartbreaking to me. Now I've come to understand that, instead of thinking of being in human form as a chore, it's like, wow, there is so much to celebrate. And how we look at that is really a matter of perspective. It's that glass. Do you see it half full, or do you see it as half empty? And what can you do about it if you don't like what you see? There are many ways that you can be assisted with this, and I can talk about those some other time. Today is about solstice, a time of celebrating. So can you think of something to celebrate for you, about you, not about anybody else, for you? So this is looking inward, finding something you like about yourself to say, gee, I'm glad I'm here on this earth at this time. Wow. Now, for some people who are going through great times of mourning and bereavement, it may seem like there's nothing to celebrate because you're surrounded with loss and with pain. There will always be something to celebrate beyond that. We mourn a loss, we can celebrate the life, the time we did have with that person or with our beloved pet, whatever we are mourning. There will still be something to celebrate, even though it may be difficult to push through those clouds of pain to get to that celebration part. So yes, ask yourself this question now. What can I celebrate about me? If I was talking to you, I know I'd have lots to say about that if I was talking to you individually right now. Another question I got was, how do we best use this time of solstice to transform ourselves? Well, I just mentioned that part about celebrating. So in terms of transforming yourself, really notice where your mind wants to take you. Does it take you to the negative channel? Are you somewhere in the middle? Or are you more on the positive channel? Now, it is possible to be in the positive channel and be realistic. Some people think, oh, I can't be always optimistic. That's not realistic. That's not practical. We live in this world. There are these restrictions right now. And how can I be positive and everything else? Every cloud has a silver lining. Sometimes it takes a little bit of detective work to find that silver lining. And this is where, when talking to somebody else about it, it's helpful, because sometimes we're so stuck, in our ways, we're not able to get that other perspective. So take this day, solstice, and every day as an opportunity for celebration. And in celebrating yourself, you'll find that automatically raises your frequency. And that is part of your transformation. The other part of transforming is not ignoring the things we don't like about ourselves and, allowing ourselves to look at that without judgment and go, okay, this is going on. Now, how can I look at this, with a different pair of eyes from a different perspective? And what can I do to shift this? And do something in the physical today. It's solstice. Go, no need to hug a tree, but personally, lean back against a tree is the best way, by the way, to hug a tree. I'm very fortunate to be here at the farm where I'm surrounded by nature. What can you do today to put you in touch with Mother Earth? Can you go smell some flowers? Can you go enjoy that beautiful ocean view if you've got one? What can you do in that respect? I'm sure you'll find something. Moving on to another question. Another question came in which said, why is forgetting who we are still part of the human process? And why is remembering so convoluted and frustrating? First of all, I am finding that young people today, the new generations coming in, are not forgetting. They remember all sorts of things, and it's really interesting that most of us may have remembered when we were young, and then over time we forgot. Or certainly by the time we were 3, all those things that seemed so possible somehow, just faded away. I think it's part of our soul growth in that before we were not able to hold that capacity. What I'm getting is that it would be like trying to put, the modern OS system or Windows, latest Windows version, into the original computer. It just did not compute. Now the hardware coming in is of a different caliber, and so the software can match. And what we've done, for those of us, who came in remembering and then forgot, we've upgraded our hardware so that now we're able to handle the software that is around. Have you noticed so many more people are able to access their intuition? They're able to trust that. They seem to be much more willing to address things that are invisible, subtle energies. Mainstream is getting more comfortable with the unseen and the unknown. And I think part of that of forgetting was it would have been too much for us to understand and too much to handle with the consciousness level that we did have all those years ago. In terms of it being convoluted and frustrating, personally, I think we do that ourselves. I don't think we can attribute that to anyone else or anything else. I don't think there's any, higher power going, okay, thou shalt have a complicated and complex and convoluted life that you are going to find totally frustrating. I think we managed to do that all on our own. So that's why it's really helpful to bring in tools for personal transformation and clearing and cleansing and all those steps that, we are now learning, so that life doesn't have to be that convoluted. It doesn't have to be that frustrating. In terms of how we can best get out of our own way to fully embrace the magnificent divine that we are, here's another question that came in. The best way is to remove all the factors that limit us from expressing that divine magnificence. It's like, the inner core, I call it mining the gold. The inner core is already there. It's already golden, but it got covered and buried under years and decades and lifetimes of, yucky stuff. And so as we peel those off, we start to access that gold within. And how can we best remove judgment that clouds our perspective of seeing all other humans as divine partners on the planet? Well, that sounds like a good intro to shadow work, looking at unearthing all our shadow aspects and embracing that. And as we do that, we won't have all those triggers coming in, because as they come in, first of all, we recognize them as triggers, and we have another way to deal with them. We can act upon situations instead of reacting to them. And on to our next question, which was, how can I be kind to myself? This sounds like such a simple question, and yet not so easily answered in one sentence. May I suggest that when you are wondering, how can I be kind to myself, you first of all look at where you are unkind. Do you judge yourself too harshly? Do you put unrealistic expectations on yourself? Are you your worst enemy, always pointing out all your faults instead of noticing the positive aspects of yourself? One way to start being kind is to become your best friend. So instead of the usual way you talk to yourself, imagine you're talking to your best friend. Would you say the same things? Would you judge as harshly? Would you always be pointing out all the faults? I think not. I think instead you would be giving encouragement. You would be honest and frank and truthful, not pretending and avoiding being honest. At the same time, you could do this in a kind way, in a constructive way, instead of a destructive one. You know, it's a good idea to become your best friend, because you're with yourself all the time. And what a difference it would make if you were your best friend, being supportive and encouraging, instead of being critical and angry with yourself. So notice, are you disappointed with yourself when something doesn't work out the way you thought it would? Are you feeling like you have to push yourself all the time? Instead of pushing, encourage. Think of it this way. When you are wanting to arrive at a certain destination, do you want somebody already at the destination encouraging you to come forward, offering you support? Or do you want someone constantly poking you in the back, screaming and yelling at you? Yes, that is a start to being kind with yourself. Here is another question. What is the source of my fatigue, and how can I vanquish it? Fatigue comes from energy depletion. That is the basic origin of fatigue. Yes, there is tiredness from working. When you run, you get tired. And at the same time, it still comes down to energy depletion. Energy depletion can occur from many sources. May we suggest to you to look into this more clearly with an upcoming workshop that the speaker has organized. She will be doing that in July, and you will be getting more information on that. For the person who sent this particular question in, who lives in America, please to understand, stress is also a factor that contributes to fatigue, because you actually leak your energy. You leak your energy to a worry, you leak your energy to an issue. And when you are working so hard to suppress and push away these sources of stress, that in itself causes more fatigue. So, may we suggest to you that not only you learn how to manage your energy, how to identify what the energy depletions are and correct them, may we suggest to you that you start now with allowing yourself to listen to what your inner voice is saying, to listen to what your body wants. If you are unfamiliar with talking to your body, simply sitting quietly and allowing yourself to tune in, you may find that you get to know a lot more about yourself than you realize. You may wonder why sometimes I talk in the third person. When I am listening to higher guidance and I go into a deeper channel, then I find that my voice is simply, it's like I'm the straw the milkshake comes through. So I do find myself talking in the third person at times like that. I've got another question here from somebody who is asking, what is of benefit for me to know at this time? And actually, I had quite a few questions that came in of what do my guides want to say to me at this particular time? So please understand that the message I'm giving now, yes, does pertain to you, RB, you know who you are. And also, the message you're getting is one that is more general, one that will apply to many listeners to this recording. So, whilst it is, directly related to you, this will also relate to others. For a more personal message, if there is one, I'll send you a WhatsApp and pass that on to you for all of you who asked, what do my guides really want me to know right now? If it's something that is, really personal and only pertaining to you, then I'm happy to send that along. I think most of you who are listening to this recording already have my WhatsApp contact. If you don't, please send me an email and I'll be happy to connect with you that way. Thanks. Now, to answer this question, RB, let's see what higher guidance has with regards to what it is of benefit for you to know. And I noticed that you put KNOW in capital letters. And that to me really is, what it really is saying to me is, okay, I want to know, and it's the big picture know, the higher perspective know, as opposed to something that perhaps, my lower self, would be keen to find out. Dear one, what a lovely question coming from somebody who already is in contact with knowing and knowingness. What is it of benefit for you to know at this time is you have an unlimited source of information coming to you from many streams, so to speak, not only one channel. You have an unlimited library at your disposal, and yet you do not always ask. It is available to you. It is available to many. And this is not some special gift that only the select few can tap into. Perhaps it would interest you to start honing this skill, sharpening it, so to speak, so that instead of getting some vague idea or a hunch or an inkling, you start to crispen it and bring with it more knowingness. This will help you in so many ways, not only in a personal way, but in your work as well. For you have much information to share with others. And do you not think it is time that you begin to do this, to disseminate this information? We are ever present to assist you. All you have to do is ask. Yes, all we have to do is ask. What if we're not sure how to ask, or we're not sure what to ask? Well, this is what I have found in terms of going with higher guidance. And I'm going to fast forward because let me look at my list here. I do see that there is a message from someone else who asked, in what situation would it be helpful to call in the ascended masters, and is it appropriate? Whenever you are seeking some higher information, the ascended masters can assist you, as can many other guides. The way I see it is, not that there's this person or, this deity or that ascended master. I see it kind of like libraries of higher information. In other words, you're going into the library of higher information, and which book are you going to pull off the shelf? And I have discovered that, different angels, have specific, kind of areas of expertise, much like, we have family practitioners and we have specialists who specialize in different areas. So, in terms of, is it appropriate? Appropriate, I can understand why you use this word. There is no right or wrong or appropriate or inappropriate in terms of, you're not supposed to ask us that. What will happen though is if you ask a question in terms of, say for example, will this happen in the future? You go to a lot of readers or, people that have a session with you, and they'll tell you what's going to happen in the future. That is not coming from 100% in love. This does not mean that, you won't get correct information, but what it is that is information given at that specific point in time with everything the way it is. You finish your session and usually you turn left and you go down that road, but instead you think today, okay, I'm not going to go my usual way, I'm going to go this way. Well, that opens up a completely other opportunity for other experiences. And it's not like, okay, left was plan A and now you're in plan B. They're all plan A. It's like, which option are you going for? So when people say, well, this is cast in stone, yes, it's cast in stone, and there are many stones. So if you ask higher guidance, be it an ascended master or, the guide you have that's always there or one of the angels, will this happen or will this, should I do this? No guide of 100% light will ever tell you what you should or shouldn't do because we have free will. You can ask, is it in my highest good to? And they can give you advice. This is what I say, guides are for guidance. If they were to supply you with answers, then they would be called answerers. They wouldn't be called guides. This is like, may we suggest this is the best option. So when you are when to call in the ascended masters? Well, first of all, it depends which ascended master, if you want to be that specific. You don't have to be. You can set the intention, okay, I'm calling on higher guidance and I wish to communicate with the guide who is most appropriate for this question. Please add in the words 100% light and love, because there's all sorts of guidance available to us, all right? So put your filters in. And then as you do that, what you're doing is you're pulling that library book from the shelf to look at. Now, for some people who have honed their skill already, they will get answers in words and they will get, specific, sentences. Now, for somebody else, when you're first starting out and you don't have that kind of, what's the word I want? Fluency in the language, all right? You're just starting with basic words. You can ask yes, no questions. When the answer is yes, no, then you can, deduct and get from that. as you hone this skill, as you develop your intuition, what you're doing is you're getting more fluency in the language. And as you do that, you'll get more answers. So when you hear nothing, it's like, okay, I've asked this question and it's a yes, no, and you don't get anything. It could be that they are unable to answer that question because it's kind of like all the coins are up in the air and they haven't fallen down yet. So there isn't a specific time and date answer in that particular moment. Or you're asking something that is not of the 100% light and love to get an answer that way. You know, I've had people come and see me and they say, well, I want to know, is my partner being faithful? No guide is going to tell you that. No guide of 100% light and love. My answer is, why don't you go ask your partner? Perhaps develop a little bit more, communication. That would be good. Is it in my highest good to buy this stock? This is, they're not your broker advisor. You may already be really good at that yourself of, having kind of like a good insight into, oh, this is something good to buy, or, maybe this is time to sell. But no guide is going to tell you something like that because it relates to personal material gain. And when it relates to personal material gain, you won't get an answer from 100% light and love. That's for you to decide yourself. I have another question here when somebody asked, what does my soul desire? This reminds me of a client of mine who said, I want God to tell me what makes me happy. And I said, God's waiting for you to say what makes you happy so that you can have it. So in terms of what does our soul desire, the answer is to develop that connection with yourself. What do you desire? People ask me, what is my life purpose? And the answer is, your life purpose is to enjoy your life. I think what all of us desire, what all our higher selves desire in general, is that we live a fulfilling life of authenticity, where we are in touch, in connection with our souls, doing what we want. And yes, there are times where we do things because we have to, which may not be as much as desirable as, it's for the common good of all. So we may contribute and do things like that in terms of, as a community, what do we all want for each other? And let's all pull together. However, I think what for each and every one of us, a soul desire is that we live the life that where we feel our hearts are singing. We're enjoying our life. Now, enjoying our life, there'll be times that are good. There'll be times that are frustrating. We have a whole range of emotions and experiences. It's not like this continual high. That's unrealistic. But as we, listen to allow ourselves to live our life the way we feel gives us most joy in an this is not self-centered. This is not egotistical. This is, being a true, rich, full expression of ourself. I think that's every soul's desire. And then, yes, there will be specific things that are different from each person as you come in terms of what I call your soul homework. In those instances, our soul's desire is to pick up, the textbook and look at, okay, What homework did I bring into in this lifetime? The next question is, how do I stay calm when people around me are so negative? I can feel the negativity and it's so frustrating. Some people are more sensitive to energy than others, all right? So, especially if you are an empath, you can pick up, the energy from other people and think it's your own. So sometimes you may feel frustrated or angry when really what you are doing is you are sensing somebody else's frustration, somebody else's anger, and this can trigger you. Two things to look at here. One is looking at what I call your internal landmines. If you haven't done your shadow work, then people can trigger you very easily because they touch on something that you're sensitive to, and kaboom, that landmine goes off, and then you find yourself getting irritated or upset. And so as we do our shadow work and look at all those things and we embrace our shadow, we find that we don't react to things as much. We act upon things more. So, we're not as volatile, and our moods become much more steady. So that's one aspect of it. The other is, especially if you are sensitive, thank you for asking this question, because this is very timely for me to mention again about S.W.E.E.T, looking at how we keep our energy field clear, because those energies come to us as energy distortions. And depending on where they attach in our aura, you'll find that, you can have physical symptoms, emotional symptoms, mental symptoms, depending on which layer of the aura they're attached to. So in our S.W.E.E.T class, we learn how to identify what these energy distortions are and fix them. So it's not just noticing what's there, it's being able to eliminate them as well. As you do that, you'll find that you will be less and less likely to, because it's kind of like this, if you already have some lint in your sticky, then you attract more lint. Okay, you attract more things sticking to you. The clearer you get, the more you can stay calm, the more, when your energy field is in harmony, it repels chaos. When you're chaotic yourself, it attracts more chaos. So doing S.W.E.E.T is a wonderful way to help to eliminate that. Another question which kind of ties into this is one where someone asked, what's the best way to call my energy home? And tips on grounding. So calling our energy home, we have to look at what makes you leave in the first place. What makes one part want to escape? When you deal with those reasons, then you find you're much more at home here already. So part of that is exactly that home thing. Are you at home on this planet? Or do you feel like, you're in boarding school and you can't wait to go home? As you learn to call planet Earth home, and what better time to talk about this than the solstice, where we're celebrating the Earth's cycles. As you learn to call it home, and as you dissolve the reasons why you want to leave, you find that in itself is grounding. And as for other tips for grounding, in our S.W.E.E.T workshop, we will be going through that and going through all the methods. I'm not going into detail on this call because that in itself could be a whole 30-minute call just on, 30-minute talk just on grounding. Thanks for sending that question in. And there is just one more here that I want to address. Let me find it. Okay, this one's come in talking about someone who says they're constantly worried and scared. And the question says here, that was submitted, says, what can I do to trust you more? Now, I wasn't sure if it was trust me, Sandra Sweetman, as a practitioner working with you, or whether it was one for trusting in general. To both of those, whether it's trusting me or trusting others, the answer is learning to trust yourself first. As you learn to have more confidence in your and more clarity and trust in yourself and your decision making, that is going to help you trust others way more. When you don't trust yourself, when you second guess yourself, it's really hard to put your trust in someone else. As you listen to your inner knowing, as you develop that more, then you will be more astute, and you know what you're doing is you're polishing your discernment skills. It's not about trusting every single thing everybody says to you or everybody who comes your way. It's about listening to that inner knowing. And in order to develop that, it's about forgiving ourselves for what we call mistakes, because we may have trusted someone and thought, this is the person for me and this is, where it's going. And then there may have been a huge disappointment or a betrayal. And then we blame ourselves and we go, gee, how could I be so stupid? And how could I have thought this? And how could I have done this? And how could I have done that? So in all those times, it's about healing where we're angry with ourselves, where we're disappointed with ourselves. And as we clear those, we can start to do, which I'd mentioned earlier on this recording, we can start to become good friends with ourselves. And yes, those are the people we trust, right? Our very best friends. So becoming your best friend, part of that is building that trust with yourself. And also, knowing who sent this in, I know that you are very sensitive to other energies and you are quite an empath. So I am pretty sure that some of your worry and your fear isn't your own. It's not that you're completely worry free or completely fearless, but what it is, you may have started out a little worried and then all these other worry thoughts came in and glommed onto you, and suddenly it's like you're extremely worried. So again, a good, and actually I know you've already signed up for the S.W.E.E.T class, so a good way to deal with that is to learn S.W.E.E.T and to learn, what are energy distortions, what are energy depletions, how I, what have I got, learning all that, and then being able to remove them so that you can identify and clear. Those two parts are important. Now, for anybody listening on this call, if you're wondering about S.W.E.E.T, there are two parts to it. One is, first of all, learning accurate muscle testing and trusting it so that you can identify accurately whether there are energy depletions and energy distortions. And then the second part is actually going through those steps. And what we will do is we will have a third call a couple of weeks after that for Q&A of all the questions, because feedback of how you found it and how you've been working on it for the past those past 2 weeks. In addition, this is a S.W.E.E.T retreat, so it's not only learning S.W.E.E.T and muscle testing. We will be having a wonderful time, really having a spa day for your soul, a spa day for your energy, so that you can relax and recharge and build your vitality. I feel we're all kind of a bit worn down, now that we've had over a year of this pandemic. It's, we started off really good and it's like, and our energy has been flagging. So this is very timely. Clear all those energy distortions, get rid of the energy depletions, and let's have a tune up to really get everything shipshape again, energy-wise. I look forward to seeing many of you who sent in questions. I look forward to you participating in that next month. And now this brings me to the last segment of this recording. I thank you all for sending in your questions. Some of them that are, totally personal, I will be answering in a WhatsApp message. And to wrap up this call, I'd like to offer two songs. The first song, a song to connect with not only Mother Earth all sentient beings on this earth to do with nature. Let us remember all natural beings, beings of nature. Thanking all the divas, and spelt very differently, D-E-V-A, all the divas that help with all of nature. May I suggest, for those of you who are so busy in the city, take a moment to enjoy some nature. And now, a song of blessing for all of you as we join hands, all of us, listening to this recording, as we join hands to celebrate life on earth, sending love to all who feel unloved today. Blessings to all. Blessings. I'd like to say a big thank you to my nephew, Kirk Carr, for his generosity in sharing his beautiful photographs with us. He's on Instagram, and every single day he takes the most beautiful photographs. He's out west in Canada, and I love them so much. And I thought, for this call, I'd like to add a visual to it, and my internet is too slow. Plus, you don't need to see my face, and my internet is too slow for uploading if I was to record this with video. So I thought, why not put in some beautiful photographs? And that's what I've done. So thanks, Kirk. Lots of love. I look forward to the next time we connect. Thank you. And thank you too, most importantly, for all the guidance and love and all the time that was shared with us from higher beings of 100% light and love today and every day. Thank you.